Lesbian Detectives. Unsolved cases. She's still missing. Yeah, they haven't found her yet. Well, let's talk about it.
They say he vanished without a trace. Could it be a psychotic break or a tragic accident? Police don't know where the body went. Unsolved murders, body still missing. That's unheard. Where's the witness? Lesbian detectives, what's going on? City on high alert, this out the norm. He did what, the who? Man, that ain't real, these crimes ain't true. Then come uncover these theories with us. We live right now, tuning in is a must.
Right now, Lesbian Detectives. Lesbian Detectives. We about to start the show, so get your popcorn ready to go. Pay attention to the message I present to you, Lesbian Detectives.
This is Lesbian Detectives. I'm Sierra.
And I'm Elizabeth.
We are here talking about missing and unsolved murders.
We are discussing cases that you have forgotten about or never even heard of.
So sit back, relax, and let's start.
Lesbian Detectives. Unsolved cases. She's still missing. Yeah, they haven't found her yet. Well, let's talk about it.
They say he vanished without a trace. Could it be a psychotic break or a tragic accident? Police don't know where the body went. Unsolved murders, body still missing. That's unheard. Where's the witness? Lesbian detectives, what's going on? City on high alert, this out the norm. He did what, the who? Man, that ain't real, these crimes ain't true. Then come uncover these theories with us. We live right now, tuning in is a must.
Right now, Lesbian Detectives. Lesbian Detectives. We about to start the show, so get your popcorn ready to go. Pay attention to the message I present to you, Lesbian Detectives.
Welcome back, everybody. And let me tell you something. When this episode hit, I will be on somebody beach drinking a pina colada. I'm so excited. I'm turning 30, guys. So wish me happy birthday. So excited. I'll be posting videos, pictures from our trip. This is the first trip in a long time. And I'm excited. I'm so excited. Like each day at work, I'll be counting down. And like my boss keeps saying, like, yeah, you going on vacation? I'm like, girl, am I?
2 more days.
2 more days. I got my hair done. I got my nails done. Get my eyebrows done in a couple days. Guys, I'm excited. I will be the big 3-0. And after that, guys, you will not hear about my age no more. I'm not telling you my age. I'm done. I'm done. When I hit 40, I'm going to start going backwards. But I'm excited. I have not been to Mexico, and I have not been on an airplane in a long time. And also, this is my first time actually using my passport. I have never, ever used my passport. My wife, she has used her passport a couple of times. Me, like I haven't. But out of both of us, she's more the traveler. I'm really not. But I'm trying to be like her when I get older. Because my wife, she travel, guys. Like, if I tell her all the time, like, man, you should just record, like, your, like, trips. Because, like, she doesn't go, like, big places. Like, I think you're going to, what, Oregon or Denver in a couple months?
Denver.
So it's like, that's not like Miami, but she's going to see, like, what, the mountains and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
but enough of my vacation. I know you're like, dang, Sierra, you really excited. I really am. But let's stop talking about it. You guys going to hear enough of it sooner or later when I talk about my trip. But let's get into this episode. And you know I'm about to say my favorite line. Now let's get into the episode. It started like any other summer. Warm air, open space. Family gathered in a place where nothing feels out of the ordinary. Children play nearby while adults talk and relax, trusting that nothing could go wrong in a setting like this. It was a kind of place that feels safe without anyone ever really thinking about why. But safety, as it turns out, can be fragile. Because in the middle of the ordinary moment, a child disappeared. No warning, no sound, no clear explanation. One moment she was there, and the next, She was gone. There were people all around. There were witnesses. There was time. And yet, none of it was enough to stop what happened. What followed wasn't just a search. It was a confusion. It was uncertainty. It was a growing realization that something had gone very wrong in a place where nothing should have. Even now, years later, there are no clear answers, only fragments, only questions that never quite settle. And the most unsettling part is this: it didn't happen in isolation. There was details that didn't fit, information that surfaced long after the fact, and a trail that seemed to appear and disappear just as quickly as it was found. This is a case that has never been solved. And before anything else can be understood, we have to go back to the beginning. This is the case of Nyleen Kay Marshall. Nyleen Kay Marshall was born on September 18, 1978. She grew up in Montana with her parents, Kim and Nancy Marshall, and her two siblings, her older brother Nathan and her younger sister Noreen. Her family was close-knit and active in the community. By all accounts, Nyleen had been happy, stable childhood. She was known as friendly and outgoing little girl and who wasn't afraid to talk to people. She liked being around others and she trusted easily. In many ways, she was exactly the kind of child you would expect to see running around freely at a family picnic in the early 1980s. On June 25, 1983, the Marshall family traveled to Elkhorn Mountains near Allen, Montana, to attend a ham radio club picnic and a social gathering with multiple families, and the atmosphere was relaxed. Adults were talking and eating while children played nearby. At some point that afternoon, Nyleen went down to the creek with a group of other children. They were catching frogs and exploring the shallow water. A 13-year-old girl had been asked to keep a close eye on them, but supervision was informal. At one point, the teenager briefly stepped away and told Nyleen to stay where she was. When she returned, the little girl was gone. At first, it didn't seem alarming. Children wondered. It's easy to assume she had simply gone back towards the picnic area. But as a few minutes passed and no one could find her, concern quickly escalated. Within a short time, it became clear that something was very wrong. As adults began searching the area, some of the children shared something unusual. They had seen a man nearby. He wasn't someone they recognized, and he stood out because he was wearing a purple jogging suit. Another recalled Nyleen saying something strange, that the man wanted her to follow the shadow. Investigators later believe this may have been a tactic to lure her away. It sounded like a game, something harmless, enough that a 4-year-old wouldn't feel afraid. If that's what happened, it worked quickly and quietly. No one reported hearing a scream or seeing a struggle. Once Nyleen was officially reported missing, the response was immediate. Law enforcement, volunteers, and federal agents joined the search. Over 2,000 people worked to help the police find the little girl. Helicopters were used to scan the area from above, and trained dogs were brought in to track her scent. The terrain made the search especially difficult. The area around the creek is heavily wooded, with steep cliffs and numerous abandoned mine shafts. Search dogs were able to pick up Nyleen's scent near the creek. However, the trail ended abruptly, which raised concern that she may have been abducted rather than simply walking away. The search continued for 10 days. Volunteers came from across regions and efforts including checking mine caves, bodies of water, dense forest areas. Despite all of this, no trace of Nyleen was found. For nearly 2 years, the case remained cold. Then, in November 1985, an anonymous man contacted authorities and claimed that he had abducted Nyleen. At first, investigators were skeptical. False confessions and hoax are not uncommon in high-profile cases, but this situation changed when the man began sending letters.
The letters were typed and contained specific details about Nyleen and her disappearance that had never been made public. This strongly suggested that whoever wrote them had direct knowledge on the case. In the letters, the man referred to Nyleen as Kay. He claimed that he had found her alone and frightened near the area where she disappeared and had decided to take her with him. He described raising her as his own child, homeschooling her, and traveling with her frequently across the United States, Canada, and even the United Kingdom. On the surface, he portrayed a life that seemed stable, but throughout the letters there were disturbing statements that indicated ongoing sexual abuse. Investigators believed that if the letters were genuine, Nyleen was being held in a long-term abusive situation. The FBI traced several of the man's phone calls to payphones in Wisconsin, particularly near the town of Edgerton. This was the first significant geographic lead in the case. However, once law enforcement began focusing on those locations, the calls stopped. The letters also ceased, and the individual was never identified. Despite efforts to track him, investigators were unable to determine who he was or whether his claims were legitimate. Over the years, there were numerous report sightings of Nyleen across the country. One possible sighting in Wisconsin drew attention, specifically given the connection to the phone calls. In 1997, a nurse in New Orleans reported encountering a young woman who called herself Helena. She was accompanied by an older man, and the interaction raised concerns. The nurse later wondered if the woman could have been Nyleen. However, before any follow-up could occur, the pair left the area and were never identified. None of the reported sightings were ever confirmed. In 1991, a man named Richard James Wilson claimed responsibility for Nyleen's death. He led investigators to a location where he said he had disposed of her body in a mine shaft. Authorities searched the area thoroughly, but found no evidence to support his claim. His statements were inconsistent, and he had a history of mental illness. Ultimately, investigators concluded that his confession was not credible. By 1995, more than a decade had passed since Nyleen disappeared. For her family, the search was never really stopped. Even after years without answers, her mother, Nancy Marshall, continued to follow up on leads, no matter how small or uncertain they seem. That summer, Nancy traveled to Mexico City. According to her family, she believed there might be information there connected to Nyleen. It was one more attempt to find clarity in the case that had brought so much uncertainty into their lives. While she was there, Nancy stayed in a hotel. She spent time with her friends during the trip, and nothing about those interactions suggested anything wrong. The people who saw her described her as engaged, in good spirits. But the next morning, Nancy was found unresponsive in her hotel room. Authorities initially ruled her death as suicide. However, in the days that followed, questions began to surface. Her family struggled to reconcile that conclusion with what they knew about her. They described Nancy as deeply committed to her children and still actively searching for her daughter. At the same time, there were reported details about the scene that raised concerns and led to future scrutiny. Because of those uncertainties, the official classification of her death was later changed to undetermined. Even with that change, no clear explanation was ever established, and no one was held responsible. Today, Nyleen Marshall's disappearance remains unsolved. Investigators have revisited the case multiple times over the years, but no physical evidence has ever been recovered. The identity of the man who made the phone calls and wrote the letters is still unknown. It's unclear whether those communications were genuine or an elaborate hoax. Some investigators believe Nyleen likely died shortly after her disappearance. Others believed it is possible that she was taken and raised under a different identity. There are still tips that come in, even decades later, but none have led to answers. For the Marshall family, it was another profound loss, one layered onto years of unanswered questions about Nyleen. Nancy has spent long searching for her daughter, and in the end, her own story also became one without clear answers. Before we end this case, let's take a moment to remember the victim. Nyleen Kay Marshall was just 4 years old. She was a daughter, a sister, and a little girl who should have had the chance to grow up, to build a life, to be surrounded by the people who loved her. Instead, her story was interrupted on a summer afternoon in 1983. More than 4 decades have passed since that day. The place where she was last seen hasn't changed much. The creek still runs, the trees still stand, and to most people, it looks like another quiet stretch of the forest. But for those who remember, it's something else entirely. It's a place where Nyleen disappeared. Her case is still open, there are still questions, and there are still people who hope that one day there will be answers. Answers about what happened and who was responsible. If anyone listening knows something, no matter how small it may seem, it could still make a difference. Because even after all this time, Nyleen is not forgotten, and she still deserves the truth. This is the case of Nyleen Kay Marshall. Now let's get into some theories.
Theories.
Let's get into some theories. Let's get into some theories. Everyone is a suspect until proven guilty. Let's get into some theories. Lesbian Detectives. What type of thoughts you thinking? What theories running through your mind? I'm thinking all types of suspicion. Uncover the truth, what we can find. Witness say they saw somebody creeping out the back door. What you think they did it for? That's so crazy, I'm not sure. They found a car, where could she be? Here go another puzzle piece. Research and do your history. It's plenty unsolved mysteries. Everyone is a suspect until proven guilty. Let's get into some theories, yeah. Let's get into some theories. Let's get into some theories. Everyone is a suspect until proven guilty. Let's get into some theories. Lesbian Detectives.
You or me?
Go ahead.
This case right here, I have a couple theories, and I feel like I'm going to break them down. My first theory is that I feel like the man kidnapped her and he was raising her. I don't know how long she survived, but I think as years went on, he probably unalived her. Or my other theory is that he did keep her alive for a long time. It was a Netflix show you was watching. It was a documentary of a little girl like got kidnapped and the man raised her as a child and then he married her and then he unalived her. It was the little girl the girl in the picture. That so it kind of reminded me of that situation a little bit. And the third theory is that she didn't survive. Like he probably SA her and then unalive her that day. And with the mom, I do believe if she was still alive, I do feel like the mom, she figured out who took her daughter. Because I always tell you, a mom knows. And a mom, like, I watch dancing videos and I would post them in the description. She was looking for her daughter. I don't believe the suicide at all. I think she probably figured out where her daughter was and that man knew, like, dang, I'm caught. And he unalived her. I feel like if they look more into Nancy murder, they will probably figure out who it may have been because it don't seem like it seemed kind of messy, you know. It was a quick murder, and I'm like, I wonder if she took notes, like what was in that hotel room for her to like. She probably took notes and all that stuff. So I wonder what happened in that hotel room. How close was she? I wish she told somebody like, hey, like, I think it's this person, but I feel like she probably kept it to herself because she didn't want to be wrong again. So those are my theories.
My theory is the man that abducted her in the park, the one that was making all the calls. I think it was him. Just because he was very knowledgeable with the case and, the police department or the detectives hadn't released certain information, and yet he already was well adversed. So I'm thinking that it was him. He, according to the police department, he was sexually abusing her, which is to me like one of the worst things that you can
Mm-hmm.
do, especially to a child. But I feel like, predators or pedophiles like that, they like to keep them in that way or young as much as possible, because for him to go out and find a kid every night, every other night, every other week, like, it becomes too much.
Mm-hmm.
Unless she, you know, died from some type of, unless she passed away from, something that he did to her, I don't really see him like unaliving her as soon. He
Mm-hmm.
was sending updates, but it just looks like he's a sick bastard trying to rub in what he's doing, but also saying that, hey, I got away with it. I do believe that the mom wasn't alive by him as well,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like she knew too much and he stopped sending information when he was thinking that he was going to get caught,
Mm-hmm.
which I believe that the mom is the one that made that decision, but she wasn't really backed up by the police, or she just went on her own limb, which I understand as a mom. Like, you're going to try and do whatever you can to protect your child, but ultimately, I feel like it was a sick monster, a
Mm-hmm.
pedophile that wanted one thing, and unfortunately, that was Nyleen. That's my theory, especially in the 80s. Like, stuff like this didn't really happen, abductions, or at least it wasn't heard of. People could go to the park and not lock their doors. Like,
Mm-hmm.
everything was a little bit more safe, but you're always going to have, someone around who that doesn't think the same as we do, like they see a kid and they see something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think it was him.
He contacted police. I wonder why he chose that time to contact them. Like, police, like, something happened and she passed away. He like, okay, like, I want to get her name back out there. Like, I want to mess with the police a little bit. But I wish the police listened to Nancy. It's not known what the police and Nancy talked about for her to go to New Mexico for that reason. To, like, what was her hunch? Like, I know it was like, oh, probably family and stuff like that, but how did she know, like, okay, my daughter might be here? That's like, what my mind goes to. Like, I wish somebody could look into her notes. I don't even know if she took notes, but something happened for her to go there and say, hey, I have a clue that my daughter might be there. What was that clue? Why did she go there? And I wonder, like, she was hanging out with her friends and stuff like that and family members, but she was also following a clue. I just wonder what was, like, what was that clue for her to go? And after the man unalived her, we all know he left. He left New Mexico. He left. He like, okay, I'm gone. But I wonder, did he feel like, okay, they ruled it as a suicide, like, I'm out the clear. But then he like, oh, they ruled it, undetermined. But that's like what I'm stuck on. The mom, like, me, I don't play by moms. Moms, they figure out most of their child cases. For her to say, hey, I gotta go to New Mexico. I got a clue. Like, what was that clue? I'm always stuck on. But some people, like the man who kidnapped the young lady, they do keep them alive long. Like, it's so many cases of young girls that was found years later where they had like 2 or 3 kids and they were like in their 30s or 40s, So like JC, it is possible that did happen to her, but it's just sad because you think about the life that she lived. Like, this man kidnapped her, and for him to call her Kay, I'm thinking about a 4-year-old. A 4-year-old sometime would know their full name, but it depends, Like, if he can tell her things and she can believe him because she's 4. you know? So it's like for him to call her Kay and that's her middle name, it's also messed up. Like she knows her name. She know like my name's Nyleen. She knows that. But for him to say, hey, no, your name's Kay. And for him to say, like, I homeschool her. So she's not getting after. So the teachers can't see the signs. So I don't know. I do think like have me believe like, oh, he might kidnap more little girls because at a certain age, some pedophiles they don't like when they get their cycles or they start development. So what if he started kidnapping other little girls, but he kept her around, like to help, like to say, hey, like go play with the little girl at the park and like try to bring her over here. You know, I mean, that is a possibility. I'm just saying. I feel like you looking like, like no, you don't see it. Okay, you don't see it. But my theory is she's still alive. You know, I gotta put that out there. Like, hopefully, like she is alive. That she got out some way. I don't know. I'm praying God that she didn't live with that man a long time, and that he did unalive the mom because she was close. I wonder if, like, when she confronted him, you know, my crime shows she confronted him, and he was like, "You know too much," and he kind of told her, like, you know, lay it all out because he was gonna kill her, and he unalived her. May she rest in peace. But that's my theory, that he killed the mom because she found out who he was and that the little girl's still alive, that she's an adult now. Your theory?
I don't believe that she's alive
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like once the mom was unalived, of course they found her and her body. The little girl, like, she probably would have been kind of closer to find.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, it's hard. I hope that she's alive, but I don't really think. And maybe too, that was kind of part of the reason that he stopped sending the letters, because it's like when, like, kids, right? They have a toy and they try to like show it to other kids, and the other kids get kind of flustered and then they fight over it or whatever. But then there comes a point where they're like, okay, I don't really care about that toy anymore. So it just, you know,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't go unnoticed. Like you can't really taunt something that you don't really have.
Right.
I mean, you can try, but it's probably not the same because you don't have it in your possession.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I agree. I mean, I don't, you know, but that is our theories and that is our case. I would love to hear your theories and what do you think about this episode. Hopefully, we can get the Marshall family the closure they need because this case is tougable. I hope that one day the police really go in there and look hard at all the clues to even Nancy murder. We're on all podcast platforms, so please like, comment, and share. That is an easy way to help us get our podcast out there, and also similar podcasts to our podcast, so you can find more true crimes podcasts like ours. So this is Lesbian Detectives. Don't forget, everybody's a suspect.
so proven innocent.
Goodbye.
Lesbian Detectives. Unsolved cases. She's still missing. Yeah, they haven't found her yet. Well, let's talk about it.
They say he vanished without a trace. Could it be a psychotic break or a tragic accident? Police don't know where the body went. Unsolved murders, body still missing. That's unheard. Where's the witness? Lesbian detectives, what's going on? City on high alert, this out the norm. He did what, the who? Man, that ain't real, these crimes ain't true. Then come uncover these theories with us. We live right now, tuning in is a must.
Right now. Lesbian Detectives. We about to start the show, so get your popcorn ready to go. Pay attention to the message I present to you, the Lesbian Detectives.